Poland is a country in East-Central Europe with an area of 312,679 square kilometers, and mostly temperate climate. Generally speaking, Poland is an almost unbroken plain reaching from the Baltic Sea in the north, to the Carpathian Mountains in the south. Within that plain, terrain variations run in bands east to west. The Baltic Coast has two natural harbors, the larger one in the Gdańsk-Gdynia region, and a smaller one near Szczecin in the far northwest. The Northeastern Region, also known as Masurian Lake District with more than 2,000 lakes, is densely wooded, sparsely populated. To the south of the Lake District, and across central Poland, a vast region of plains extends all the way to the Sudetes on the Czech and Slovak borders southwest, and to the Carpathians on the Czech, Slovak and Ukrainian borders southeast. The central lowlands had been formed by glacial erosion in the Pleistocene Ice Age. The neighboring countries are Germany to the west, the Czech Republic and Slovakia to the south, Ukraine and Belarus to the east, and Lithuania and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad to the northeast. Topography. The country extends 876 kilometers from north to south and 689 kilometers from east to west, at an area of 597 square kilometers including inland waters. The average elevation is 173 meters, and only 3% of Polish territory, along the southern border, is higher than 500 meters. The highest elevation is Mount Rysy, which rises 2,499 meters in the Tatra range of the Carpathians, 95 kilometers south of Krakow, about 60 square kilometers along the Gulf of Gdansk below sea level. Topographic regions. Poland is traditionally divided into 5 topographic zones from north to south. The largest, the central lowlands or Polish plain, is narrow in the west, then expands to the north and south as it extends eastward. Along the eastern border, this zone reaches from the far northeast to within 200 kilometers of the southern border. The terrain in the central lowlands is quite flat, and earlier glacial lakes have been filled by sediment. The region is cut by several major rivers, including the Oder, which defines the Silesian lowlands in the southwest, and the Vistula, which defines the lowland areas of east-central Poland. To the south of the lowlands are the Lesser Poland Uplands, a belt varying in width from 90 to 200 kilometers. Formed by the gently sloping foothills of the Sudeton and Carpathian mountain ranges and the uplands that connect the ranges in south-central Poland. The topography of this region is divided transversely into higher and lower elevations, reflecting its underlying geological structure. In the western section, the Silesia-Kraków upthrust contains rich coal deposits. The third topographic area is located on either side of Poland's southern border, and is formed by the Sudeton and Carpathian ranges. Within Poland, neither of these ranges is forbidding enough to prevent substantial habitation. The Carpathians are especially densely populated. The rugged form of the Sudeton range derives from the geological shifts that formed the later Carpathian uplift. The highest elevation in the Sudeton is Niska in the Karkonosze Mountains. The Carpathians in Poland, formed as a discrete topographical unit in the relatively recent Tertiary era, are the highest mountains in the country. They are the northernmost edge of a much larger range that extends into the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Ukraine, Hungary, and Romania. Within Poland, the range includes 2 major basins, the Oswiecim and Sandomierz, which are rich in several minerals and natural gas. To the north of the central lowlands, the lake region includes primeval forests, one of the last remaining in Europe, and much of Poland's shrinking unspoiled natural habitat. Glacial action in this region formed lakes and low hills in the otherwise flat terrain adjacent to Lithuania and the Baltic Sea. Small lakes dot the entire northern half of Poland, and the glacial formations that characterize the lake region extend as much as 200 kilometers inland in western Poland. Wide river valleys divide the lake region into 3 parts. In the northwest, Pomerania is located south of the Baltic coastal region and north of the Vata and Notek rivers. Masuria occupies the remainder of northern Poland and features a string of larger lakes. Most of Poland's 9,300 lakes that are more than 10,000 square meters in area are located in the northern part of the lake region, where they occupy about 10% of the surface area. The Baltic coastal plains are a low-lying region formed of sediments deposited by the sea. The coastline was shaped by the action of the rising sea after the Scandinavian ice sheet retreated. The two major inlets in the smooth coast are the Pomeranian Bay on the German border in the far northwest and the Gulf of Gdansk in the east. The Oder River empties into the former, and the Vistula forms a large delta at the head of the latter. Sandbars with large dunes form lagoons and coastal lakes along much of the coast. Geology. The geological structure of Poland has been shaped by the continental collision of Europe and Africa over the past 60 million years. On the one hand, by the Quaternary glaciations of northern Europe. Both processes shaped the Sudetes and the Carpathian Mountains. The moraine landscape of northern Poland contains soils made up mostly of sand or loam, while the Ice Age river valleys of the south often contain loess. The Kraków-Czestochowa upland, the Pieniny, and the Western Tatras consist of limestone, while the High Tatras, the Beskids, and the Karkonosze are made up mainly of granite and basalts. The Polish Jura chain is one of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. Poland has 70 mountains over 2,000 meters in elevation, all in the Tatras. The Polish Tatras, which consist of the High Tatras and the Western Tatras, is the highest mountain group of Poland and of the entire Carpathian Range. In the High Tatras lies Poland's highest point, the northwestern summit of Rysy, 2,499 meters in elevation. At its foot lies the mountain lakes of Zarnistor Podrysamy and Morskie Oko. The second highest mountain group in Poland is the Beskids, whose highest peak is Babia Góra, at 1,725 meters. The next highest mountain groups is the Karkonosze and the Sudetes, whose highest point is Niska, at 1,603 meters, Nieznik Mountains whose highest point is Nieznik, at 1,425 meters. Tourists also frequent the Bieszczady Mountains in the far southeast of Poland, whose highest point in Poland is Tarnówka, with an elevation of 1,346 meters, Gorse Mountains in Gorse National Park, whose highest point is Turbich, with elevations 1,310 meters, and the Pieniny in Pieniny National Park, whose highest point is Wysokie Skałki, with elevations 1,050 meters. The lowest point in Poland, at 2 meters below sea level, is at Roczki Elbląskie, near Elbląg in the Vistula Delta. The only desert located in Poland stretches over the Zagłębie-Dąbrowskie region. It is called the Bledau Desert, located in the Silesian Voivodeship in southern Poland. It has a total area of 32 square kilometers. It is one of only 5 natural deserts in Europe. But also, it is the warmest desert that appears at this latitude. Bledau Desert was created thousands of years ago by a melting glacier. The specific geological structure has been of big importance. The average thickness of the sand layer is about 40 meters, with a maximum of 70 meters, which made the fast and deep drainage very easy. The Baltic Sea activity in Slowiński National Park created sand dunes which in the course of time separated the bay from the sea. As waves and wind carry sand inland, the dunes slowly move, at a speed of 3 to 10 meters per year. Some dunes are quite high, up to 30 meters. The highest peak of the park, Rookal, is also an excellent observation point. Land use. Poland is the 4th most forested country in Europe. Forests cover about 30.5% of Poland's land area based on international standards. Its overall percentage is still increasing. Forests of Poland is managed by the National Programme of Reforestation, aiming at an increase of forest cover to 33% in 2050. The richness of Polish forest is more than twice as high as European average, containing 2.304 billion cubic meters of trees. The largest forest complex in Poland is Lower Silesian Wilderness. More than 1% of Poland's territory, 3,145 square kilometers, is protected within 23 Polish national parks. 3 more national parks are projected for Masuria, the Kraków-Czestochowa Upland, and the Eastern Beskids. In addition, wetlands along lakes and rivers in central Poland are legally protected, as are coastal areas in the north. There are over 120 areas designated as landscape parks, along with numerous nature reserves and other protected areas. Present-day Poland is a country with favorable agricultural prospects, and over 2 million private farms. It is the leading producer in Europe of potatoes and rye, the world's largest producer of triticale, and one of the more important producers of barley, oats, sugar beets, flax, and fruits. It is the European Union's 4th largest supplier of pig meat after Germany, Spain and France. The government continues debating further agricultural reform and pursuing the option of auctioning off large tracts of state-owned agricultural land. Phyto Geography. Phytogeographically, Poland belongs to the Central European province of the Circumboreal region within the Boreal Kingdom. According to the Worldwide Fund for Nature, the territory of Poland belongs to 3 Palearctic ecoregions of the continental forests spanning Central and Northern European temperate broadleaf and mixed forest ecoregions, as well as the Carpathian montane conifer forest. Many animals that have since died out in other parts of Europe still survive in Poland, such as the wisent in the ancient woodland of the Białowieża forest and in Podlaski. Other such species include the brown bear in Białowieża, in the Tatras, and in the Beskids, the grey wolf and the Eurasian lynx in various forests, the moose in northern Poland, and the beaver in Masuria, Pomerania, and Podlaski. In the forests, one also encounters game animals, such as red deer, roe deer and wild boars. In eastern Poland there are a number of ancient woodlands, like Białowieża forest, that have never been cleared by people. There are also large forested areas in the mountains, Masuria, Pomerania, Lubisz Land and Lower Silesia. Poland is the most important breeding ground for a variety of European migratory birds. Out of all of the migratory birds who come to Europe for the summer, 1/4 of the global population of white storks live in Poland, particularly in the lake districts and the wetlands along the Biebrza, the Narew, and the Warta, which are part of nature reserves or national parks. Hydrology. The longest rivers are the Vistula, 1,047 kilometers long, the Oder, which forms part of Poland's western border, 854 kilometers long, its tributary, the Warta, 808 kilometers long, and the Bug, a tributary of the Vistula, 772 kilometers long. The Vistula and the Oder flow into the Baltic Sea, as do numerous smaller rivers in Pomerania. The Lena and the Angrapa flow by way of the Pregolia to the Baltic, and the Zana Hancha flows into the Baltic through the Neman. While the great majority of Poland's rivers drain into the Baltic Sea, Poland's Beskids are the source of some of the upper tributaries of the Orava, which flows via the Vah and the Danube to the Black Sea. The eastern Beskids are also the source of some streams that drain through the Dniester to the Black Sea. Poland's rivers have been used since early times for navigation. The Vikings, for example, traveled up to the Vistula and the Oder in their longships. In the Middle Ages and in early modern times, when the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was the breadbasket of Europe, the shipment of grain and other agricultural products down the Vistula toward Gdansk and onward to other parts of Europe took on great importance. With almost 10,000 closed bodies of water covering more than 1 hectare each, Poland has one of the highest numbers of lakes in the world. In Europe, only Finland has a greater density of lakes. The largest lakes, covering more than 100 square kilometers, are Lake Niardwe and Lake Mamre in Mashuria, and Lake Lepsko and Lake Dravsko in Pomerania. In addition to the lake districts in the north, there is also a large number of mountain lakes in the Tatras, of which the Morski Oko is the largest in area. The lake with the greatest depth, of more than 100 meters, is Lake Ancha in the Wigry Lake district, east of Mashuria in Podlaski Voivodeship. Among the first lakes whose shores were settled are those in the Greater Polish Lake district. The stilt house settlement of Biskupin, occupied by more than 1,000 residents, was founded before the 7th century BC by people of the Lusatian culture. Lakes have always played an important role in Polish history and continue to be of great importance to today's modern Polish society. The ancestors of today's Poles, the Polani, built their first fortresses on islands in these lakes. The legendary Prince Popiel ruled from Kruszwica Tower erected on the Lake Goplo. The first historically documented ruler of Poland, Duke Musko I, had his palace on an island in the Warta River in Poznan. Nowadays the Polish lakes provide a location for the pursuit of water sports such as yachting and windsurfing. The Polish Baltic Coast is approximately 528 kilometers long and extends from Winoodzha on the islands of Usedom and Wolan in the west to Krynica, Morska on the Vistula Spit in the east. For the most part, Poland has a smooth coastline, which has been shaped by the continual movement of sand by currents and winds. This continual erosion and deposition has formed cliffs, dunes, and spits, many of which have migrated landwards to close off former lagoons, such as Lepsko Lake in Slowiński National Park. Prior to the end of the Second World War and subsequent change in national borders, Poland had only a very small coastline. This was situated at the end of the Polish Corridor, the only internationally recognized Polish territory which afforded the country access to the sea. However, after World War II, the redrawing of Poland's borders and resulting shift of the country's borders left it with a greatly expanded coastline, thus allowing for far greater access to the sea than was ever previously possible. The significance of this event, and importance of it to Poland's future as a major industrialized nation, was alluded to by the 1945 wedding to the sea. The largest spits are Hel Peninsula and the Vistula Spit. The largest Polish Baltic island is Wolan. The largest sea harbors are Szczecin, Winoodzha, Gdansk, Gdynia, Police and Kolobrzeg. The main coastal resorts are Winoodzha, Międzyzdroje, Kolobrzeg, Leба, Sopot, Władysławowo and the Hel Peninsula. Drainage. Nearly all of Poland is swirled northward into the Baltic Sea by the Vistula, the Oder, and the tributaries of these two major rivers. About half the country is drained by the Vistula, which originates in the Tatra Mountains in far south-central Poland. The Vistula Basin includes most of the eastern half of the country and is drained by a system of rivers that mainly join the Vistula from the east. One of the tributaries, the Bug, defines 280 kilometers of Poland's eastern border with Ukraine and Belarus. The Oder and its major tributary, the Warta, and a few smaller rivers is Klodnica, Malopaniu, Bobr, Lusatian Nysia and Dina, form a basin that drains the western third of Poland into the Bay of Szczecin. The drainage effect on a large part of Polish terrain is weak, however, especially in the lake region and the inland areas to its south. The predominance of swampland, level terrain, and small, shallow lakes hinders large-scale movement of water. The rivers have two high water periods per year. The first is caused by melting snow and ice dams in spring adding to the volume of lowland rivers. The second is caused by heavy rains in July. Climate. Poland's long-term and short-term weather patterns are made transitional and variable by the collision of diverse air masses above the country's surface. Maritime air moves across Western Europe, Arctic air sweeps down from the North Atlantic Ocean, and subtropical air arrives from the South Atlantic Ocean. Although the Arctic air dominates for much of the year, its conjunction with warmer currents generally moderates temperatures and generates considerable precipitation, clouds, and fog. When the moderating influences are lacking, winter temperatures in mountain valleys may drop to a minimum of -20 degrees Celsius. The spring arrives slowly in March or April, bringing mainly sunny days after a period of alternating wintertime and springtime conditions. Summer, which extends from June to August, is generally less humid than winter. Showers and thunderstorms alternate with dry sunny weather that is generated when southern winds prevail. Early autumn is generally sunny and warm before a period of rainy, colder weather in November begins the transition into winter. Winter, which may last from 1 to 3 months, brings frequent snowstorms but relatively low total precipitation. The range of mean temperatures is 6 degrees Celsius in the northeast to 10 degrees Celsius in the southwest, but individual readings in Poland's regions vary widely by season. On the highest mountain peaks, the mean temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius. The Baltic Coast, influenced by moderating west winds, mostly in Winnidzha, Międzyzdroje, Dorownów, Nowe Warpno, Police and Szczecin, has cooler summers and warmer winters. The other temperature extreme is in the southeast along the border with Ukraine, where the greatest seasonal differences occur and winter temperatures average 4.5 degrees Celsius below those in western Poland. The hottest cities in Poland are Tarnow, Wrocław and Słubice. The average temperatures are rising, however. In last 30 years, there were 19 Decembers without snow, and in the last 10 years 7. December 2006 was the warmest since 1779. In most of Poland, averages temperatures rose by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. The average annual precipitation for the whole country is 600 millimeters. But isolated mountain locations receive as much as 1,300 mm per year. The total is slightly higher in the southern uplands than in the central plains. A few areas, notably along the Vistula between Warsaw and the Baltic Sea and in the far northwest, average less than 500 mm. In winter about half the precipitation in the lowlands and the entire amount in the mountains falls as snow. On the average, precipitation in summer is twice that in winter, providing a dependable supply of water for crops. The growing season is about 40 days longer in the southwest than in the northeast, where spring arrives latest.